Picture this. Before you blink, before you scroll, before you even decide if this story is for you, hit that subscribe button right now, because what you're about to hear is the kind of American, red-blooded, jaw-dropping military tale that people swear can't be real until the engines start thundering and the ground itself seems to stand at attention. And if you've ever loved aviation, pranks gone wrong, underdogs, or moments when one decision changes everything, you'll want to be part of this channel. Now here's the story. Captain Ross Halverson had meant it as a joke, the kind of dry, bored humor that blooms on air bases at 0500 when the coffee tastes like regret and the day stretches out long and gray. And when he looked over at Mr. Eli Turner, the janitor who'd been quietly mopping Hangar 3 for the last 6 years, Ross didn't see anything more than a thin man in his late 50s with a faded ball cap, a limp that never quite healed right, and eyes that noticed everything but said nothing. So Ross smirked, nodded toward the parked A-10 Thunderbolt II squatting on the concrete like a prehistoric beast, and said, "Hey, Turner, why don't you fire her up for us, huh? Give the old girl some exercise." Expecting maybe a laugh, maybe confusion, maybe another day of nothing. Because everyone knew you didn't just start a warthog. Not without clearance, not without procedure, not without years of training, and certainly not with a mop bucket still dripping suds behind you. But Eli Turner paused, set the mop down gently as if it mattered, and said quietly, "You sure, Captain?" And Ross waved a dismissive hand, already half turned away, because the joke was over in his mind. But it didn't end there, because Turner walked, slowly at first, then with a steadiness that came from somewhere deep, up the ladder, into the cockpit. And the first twist of the day came when the canopy closed with that unmistakable hydraulic whine, a sound that made 3 mechanics look up at once, and Ross felt an odd prickle at the back of his neck, because this wasn't how a joke was supposed to sound, and then switches flipped in a sequence that was not random, not guessed, not lucky, but exact, muscle memory precise. And when the left engine spooled up with that low, hungry growl that every 8-in-10 pilot knows in their bones, the laughter died instantly. Radios crackled alive. And somewhere down the flight line, a lieutenant muttered, "What the hell?" just as the right engine joined. And the sound rolled across the base like distant thunder, because Eli Turner wasn't guessing, he wasn't improvising, he was remembering. And Ross's mouth went dry as he realized this janitor knew the bird better than half the pilots on base. And before anyone could even shout, Colonel Margaret Reeves stepped into the hangar, fresh from a briefing, clipboard in hand, authority in every stride. And she froze, because she knew that sound too. And when she saw the engines turning and the cockpit occupied by a man who was definitely not on the flight schedule, her eyes narrowed not in anger, but in sharp, dangerous curiosity, because mistakes were loud and sloppy. But this was clean, and she barked, "Shut it down." But Turner's voice came back calm over the internal. "Engines are stable, ma'am, just like they used to be." And that was when the second twist hit, because Reeves recognized that voice, one she hadn't heard in over 20 years, one that belonged to a legend, whispered about in training rooms and late-night bars, a pilot who'd flown so low and so close in Desert Storm that ground troops swore he could read their name tapes, a man who disappeared after a classified mission went sideways and was officially listed as medically retired. And now he was mopping floors under a fake last name, and the colonel slowly lowered her clipboard. Every eye in the hangar locked on her, because when she said, "Turner," or should I say Major Elias Turner, the air itself seemed to suck inward. Ross's knees almost buckled, and Eli finally looked down from the cockpit with a tired smile that carried decades of ghosts. And that should have been the end of it, except it wasn't, because alarms started screaming from the operations building. An unscheduled drone had crossed into restricted airspace, comms were jammed, and suddenly the base was blind. And in that chaos, Reeves made the call that would later get her hauled before 3 committees, and quietly thanked in a closed-door ceremony because she said, "Major, can you fly?" And Turner replied, "I never stopped." And within minutes, the A-10 was taxiing, because sometimes the line between joke and destiny is one careless sentence long. And as Turner lifted off, the warthog climbing heavy and sure, Ross watched a man he'd underestimated become the only thing standing between disaster and silence. And in the sky, Turner found his old rhythm, the way the jet talked to him through vibration and sound. And when he identified the threat, a hostile drone swarm probing defenses, something new, something ugly. He didn't. Something new, something ugly. He didn't panic. He adapted, using tactics no manual covered, drawing them low, letting the A-10's armor take hits it was born to take. And when he fired, it wasn't rage or glory. It was protection, pure and simple, because the Warthog was never about elegance. It was about coming home alive. And when he landed, fuel low, jet scarred, the base erupted not in cheers but in stunned, reverent quiet, because everyone there understood they'd just witnessed history bending. And the final twist came quietly later, when Ross found Turner back in the hangar, mop in hand again, because Turner told Reeves he didn't want his rank back, didn't want medals, didn't want headlines. He just wanted to finish his shift. And Ross stammered an apology that felt too small. And Turner smiled and said, "Careful what you joke about, Captain." Sometimes the past is listening. And years later, when Ross told the story to new pilots, he always started the same way, urging them to listen close and never underestimate the quiet people. Because somewhere out there, maybe sweeping a floor, maybe changing a light bulb, might be someone who once made the engines thunder. And if you felt that rumble in your chest just now, don't forget to subscribe, because stories like this are why we're here.